In this video, we're going to make a React app. Anyway, so first things first, we're going to open up the terminal here. I'm going to change directory into my projects directory, and then I'm going to create a React app. So we'll do npx create-react-app, and we'll call it just, I don't know, my app. And then that's going to do all that stuff. I'll edit all this downloads out. Okay, and now that we have our application configured, we'll change one more time over to my app, and then we can hop in. Okay, so we'll do npm start just to start the server. I'll also pop open another tab here just so that I can open up the directory in VS Code. We're kind of doing two things here at once. Okay, so we have my app, which is the React app, and we have, as you can see, app.js, CSS, all that good stuff. Here's the React app. I'm going to remove a couple of the default things that come with Create React App just because we don't need the spinning logo or anything like that, okay? So I'm going to delete all of the styles in this app.css file by highlighting all of it and then doing, which is Command A, and then hitting delete to get rid of everything. And then I'll save with Command S. I'm going to go to the JavaScript file. I'm going to get rid of this logo because we don't need that. And I'm also going to get rid of all of the content inside of this div because all we need is a simple thing here that just says like hello world or something like that. Again, this is just because we want the default stuff. We don't necessarily need like logos or anything like that. So okay. So now that we have this stuff, right? Now that we have this stuff, I think what we were working on today, we wanted to make a Twitter clone, right? So I'm just going to make a simple data file here, call it data.js. I'm going to say const tweets. So this is going to be an array of objects. So I'm just going to duplicate downward a couple of objects just to keep this simple. We'll do, that's Control Option and then the down arrow to duplicate. But I'm going to make a full tweet first and then duplicate it. So, okay, so just a couple of tweets. And we're going to export const tweets. So that just means that we're exporting this constant here called tweets. And tweets is an array of 5 objects, right? And a single object here is a single tweet with an ID, an author, and a content. Okay, so we're going to come over to the app.js file. And the first thing we're going to want to do is we're going to want to import these tweets. So we're going to do import, and then we're doing what's called object deconstruction here. So we're saying tweets. So we're going to import the tweets from data. See how it already knew how to do that? Perfect. And the reason it's an object that we can deconstruct here is because we exported it as a constant as part of the data.js module. Don't worry about that too much. But basically, you can import, if this file had multiple constants in it, like say it had a const tweets, and then it also had a const, I don't know, likes, and then it also had a const just something else, you could import those different things individually rather than importing the whole file. So I could say likes, I could say other thing, right? So you could import one of those things instead of the entire file. But this only has one tweets const, so it doesn't really matter. Anyway, okay, so now that we have this tweets array of 5 different tweets, we're going to go ahead and render those tweets. So if we come down here, we can do a little JavaScripting inside of our return here with these brackets. So we're going to say tweets.map, and we're going to use our parentheses because we're calling the map function. Inside the map function, we're going to define what each individual item will be called. So in this case, it's going to be called a tweet. and we're going to use our arrow function here and have it return in these square brackets some stuff. So here we can say return. Okay, so we're going to have it return a few different things. So let's have it return maybe a div, and inside that div we'll say just tweet dot author. Okay, and then we'll go back here and look at that. So there are our 5 tweets. The only thing that we're rendering so far is the tweet dot author, but we could also render the tweet dot content if we wanted to. Now in the return, we should have it only returning one single object. So what we're going to have to do here is we're going to have to make a div, and then inside that div we're going to have all of our content. So if we want to have it return more than one thing inside the tweet, then we're just going to have to wrap that in a parent div that has everything else inside of it. So just to put that into context, if I put here div again, and I say tweet, and then I put tweet.id, now we're effectively rendering 2 different things inside this one single div. So this return here inside this map should only return one thing, and this here is returning only one thing. It just so happens to have 2 things inside of that one thing. Okay. So yeah, so we're rendering this tweet and then the tweet.id, so they should be numbered now. I save it, I come back, now it says tweet 1, tweet 2, tweet 3, tweet 4, tweet 5. Nice job. Okay. So now that we're doing that, we're going to want to style it a little bit. I think what we were using before was Bootstrap. So we'll say Bootstrap React, and I'm going to go ahead and add that to the app. So I just Googled Bootstrap React, get started. It's going to give us the install instructions, okay? So this is the route right here if you want to pause the video and type that in, or you can just Google it like I did and just pick the page and click get started. Okay, so I'm going to add this stuff first. So I'm copying this line here, and I'm going to come to my terminal. I'm going to close down the server for a second and run npm install React and React Bootstrap. So now we can import those specific components if we want to. So let's go ahead and open up a new tab, and we'll do Bootstrap React card component, because that's the component we're going to want to use here. Okay. So I'm going to do import card and import button, because we're going to want to do a button as well eventually. I'm going to copy these 2 lines here. These are import button from React Bootstrap /button. So there must be a folder for the button component and also a folder for their card component. So I'm going to go ahead and import those 2 things into our app.js. So I'm just going to copy those 2 lines of code here. And now we have a card. And now just to see if this is working as expected, instead of this div here that we're returning inside of our map function for each individual tweet, instead of rendering them inside of a div, I think I'm going to render them inside of a card. And let's see if that works as expected. So I save that. I go to my React app. Doesn't look like it did anything. Oh, that's because I have to run the server again. So npm start, silly me. Okay, moment of truth. Is it going to render a card or not? And it did not. Awesome. Okay, let's see if there's anything else on this get started here. Why didn't that work? Okay, we might also want to import the styles, I guess. So let's copy this line here. Try it again. Okay, now we're getting somewhere. All right, so what we had to do there was we also had to import the styles, I guess, from Bootstrap's styles library. Now that we've done that, we imported it in our JavaScript, and it seems to be working fine. So that's good. Let's go ahead and edit these cards now. Pretty simple stuff, I think. So remember that our tweets are a list of those 5 tweets, which we can look at here just real quick, right? So this is, when we map over this, we're looking one at a time. The first time we're looking at this one, the second time we're looking at this one, the third time we're looking at this one, and so on. But each time we are looking at a tweet.id, a tweet.author, and a tweet.content. So we can go ahead and render that. See here, we define whatever we're looking at the time to be called tweet. So we can come in here and we can say like the card title, and this was like the boilerplate stuff we copied. You can improvise these. Like for example, we don't need an image here, so we're going to delete that. Inside this card title, we can instead say tweet.id, and again go with the tweet number. So it could be tweet 1, tweet 2, tweet 3. Instead of this card text, we can say tweet.content, and then when we save that, we should see tweet and then the number and then the content. And then I haven't deleted this, so we should also still see this button that says go somewhere for some reason. And look at that. Tweet number 1, hey guys, this is my first tweet. Tweet number 2, hey guys, this is my second tweet. And then tweet number 3, I'm just over here getting mad at Modern Warfare 2 like usual. So you know the gist. And as you can see, these are the same things here. One thing that we're not rendering is the author, so we could go with something like that, right? So in our code, back to app.js, we could also say, instead of button, we'll do another component here, another card.text, capital T, and then we got to end it, so end card.text, and then inside of that, we could also say tweet.author, and that's going to render the author's name as well. So see? There's my tweet, and so on. So now we have a Twitter feed. Pretty cool. So that's just the basics of kind of importing that data, mapping over it, and rendering it. The next thing that we're going to do, I think we were working on an upvote and a downvote feature, so let's go ahead and do that. So this is a little bit tougher. So what we're going to want to do here is within this tweet, we're probably going to want to render a button, right? So we can say button, or sorry, we're going to want to do button. So we're going to render a button here. And we'll make this the upvote. So like that. And then I'll do another one for downvote. Actually, we probably want the downvote one to be first. We'll just use V and for down and the up arrow for the up arrow. So I'll save that. Or let's put those in the same div. So that way they're next to each other instead of on top of each other. Save that. There we go. Now they're next to each other. We could style this a little bit more if we want to, but for now, we're just going for the functionality here. Okay. I think we also wanted those buttons to start out as secondary. So I'm going to go ahead and give this a variant, and this is only available, we're only able to do variant because these buttons come from Bootstrap, and Bootstrap lets us do that. So we're going to call this the secondary variant, and then I'm just going to copy that and also make this one the secondary variant, okay? Save, come back to the app, and now they're grayed out, right? Well, now we want to be able to change the state of these buttons so that their colors change. So what we can do here is we can save these values in state, right? So we can say const upvote button color. and then set upvote button color. And then we'll say use state. Now use state, oh look, it just imported it from React. So use state is just saying what we're going to like default the state of this application to. So we're going to default the upvote button color. We want it to start out as secondary, right? And then I'm just going to shift option down to copy this line here, because now instead of upvote, we're going to do downvote, and we're going to say set downvote button color. Oh, I'm going to correct this spell error here. Okay, so now we have when this app starts to load, right? We have an upvote button color and a downvote button color, and they are going to start out. That's what use state is. They're going to set the state in this application of upvote button color and downvote button color. Both are going to be set to secondary. Now we can change that later on, such as, when somebody clicks on one of these buttons, we're maybe going to want to change the color of the button to indicate that it was clicked. But yeah, so we can do that later on by handling events. So for now, let's just render these with that secondary option. So we come down here. So on upvote button color, our upvote button color is equal to secondary, right? It's a string secondary. So what I'm going to come down here and do is, instead of setting it here to just the string, I'm going to set it to that variable called upvote button color, which you can see right here. Boom, upvote button color. If I save and come over here and refresh, notice that they're still the same. Now, just to demonstrate how this works, since we're referencing upvote button color here for this button, we are going to change this from secondary to primary. And notice that when I save that, all of the buttons have changed now. Now for this exercise, let's just focus on a single tweet, because when we click on one of these buttons, the way this is set up right now, all of the buttons are going to change. I may go into that further, but for now, just focus on like tweet one. Don't worry about the other tweets. So now I'm going to change this as well to downvote button color and change this to secondary because we want it to start out as secondary, right? So now we're back to the way we have it, right? Okay. So now that we have all these guys set, what we're going to do here is we want to give these buttons some functions. So for the upvote, we're going to say on click, and we're going to say equals, and we'll say handle upvote click. So this is a function called handle upvote click, which I'm going to define up here. So here we can say const handle upvote click equals, and we're going to make this an arrow function by setting it up like this. We have the equals, empty parentheses because we don't give this any arguments, and then we're going to say arrow, and then the stuff we want it to do. So when an upvote button is clicked, we're going to say set upvote button color to, we probably want it to be green, right? So I think Bootstrap success is what it's called. So we're going to set it to success. So set upvote button color to success. Okay. So when the button's clicked, we have on click for the upvote button, handle upvote button click. That's going to go ahead and trigger this function here to start activating. And it's only going to do one thing here. It's going to set our upvote button color to success, where it used to be secondary. Now it's going to be success. And you'll see that when we come over here to our app, now when I click the upvote, it changes it to a green guy, right, or a green button. So, and now we can do the same thing for our downvote button. So we can say ditto here on click equals, and we're going to do our curly braces again, and we're going to say handle downvote button click. Okay, so now this is another function. We have not defined it yet, so we have to come up here and define it. So underneath handle upvote button click, I'm going to say const handle downvote button click equals, again, our open and close parentheses, because we're not passing in any arguments, but it is still an arrow function, so we have to write it this way. And then we're going to do our curly braces and hit enter. And now, instead of setting upvote button color, we want to set the downvote button color. So we're going to say set downvote button color. And we probably want it to be like maybe red instead of green. So I'm just going to come back over here. Danger is probably a good color for that. So I think it's, yeah, so it's called variant danger. So we're going to set our downvote button color value in state, which was formerly secondary. We're going to now change it to danger. So when you click the downvote button, it's going to change from the secondary color variant to the danger color variant, which I think is like gray to red. So now when I click the downvote button, I'll refresh the page, it changes it to red. And like I said, all of these tweets are all changing at the same time. We can maybe go over that in another video, or I'll include it here at the end. I'm not quite sure. So I guess I'll have to see how long this video goes on for. We do have one further problem that we still need to solve for. If I click both of these buttons, they're both active at the same time. And usually if you click on an upvote, then the downvote is no longer, indicated as something that you have clicked. And if you click on the downvote, then it disables the upvote, that kind of stuff, maybe like Reddit. So what we're going to have to do here is we're going to want to say, okay, when I click the upvote, yes, I want to change the upvote button color to success, but I also want to make sure that I set the downvote button color back to its original secondary color, right? And then I'm going to also say that when I click the downvote button, I also want to set the upvote button to its original color to indicate that it's no longer actively clicked, right? So if I go ahead and refresh this, now when I click this guy, boom, it's upvoted, and then when I click this, it's now downvoted. And notice that this is gray again, so it's changing. See that? Nice. So now there is a way for us to make it so that each individual tweet is updated rather than all of the tweets. So what we can do here is instead of rendering everything inside of app.js, we can go ahead and render another JavaScript or another React component here. So instead of rendering a card right here, we can render our own component and then change the state in that one component as instead of changing the state for all of these components. So I'll show you what that looks like. It might not make sense right now, but I'll show you what that looks like. Okay, so first things first, we're going to have to create a new component here, and I'm going to call it tweet.js. Okay, so now we're going to say function tweet, and then I'll do this and that. So we have our tweet component, and it's going to return some HTML stuff. Okay, so we'll say this is a tweet. Okay, so what we're going to do here is we're going to say tweets.map. Instead of rendering all of this stuff, I'm going to make it a comment for now, just so that we still have it there. And I'm going to instead have it render our tweet. Okay. and then I go to the page. You know what I'm missing? The export default at the bottom of the file. So in our tweet.js, we're going to say export default tweet. So basically what that means is we're going to export this whole file as tweet. And since it's a function, it's just exporting the function. So now when I come over here, I've imported tweet from the file called tweet, and I'm rendering the tweet here in the return. Since I'm still mapping over this list of tweets, there's 5 tweets, so therefore it's going to render 5 of the tweet components, and inside the component it's just going to say this is a tweet. So I would expect that there's only going to be 5 tweets on Chrome. So as you can see, we have this is a tweet 5 times. So now what I can do instead is I can see all this code that we have commented out. Well, I still like that code. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to keep it. So I just did Command X to cut it, and I'm going to save that. And then I'm going to come over to this tweet, and I'm going to paste it right here. Then you're probably thinking, Johnny, how the hell is this going to work? Like, what the hell is tweet? We don't know now. This page doesn't know. Those tweets were coming from our map function, right? What the hell is tweet? Well, tweet is still that tweet. However, we need a way to pass that in to our component, right? So we need to pass that into our component. So what we're going to do is you can hit enter here, and inside of the tag, see that? We can say tweet equals, and then we're going to hand it the tweet that we've defined up here. And now it should render as normal. Oh, I have to import those. Hold on. Remember those imports that we had before? We got to make sure to bring those over to the new tweet file as well. So there we go. Okay, now it should work. It says tweet is not defined. Okay, so remember how functions take in arguments and all that? So React components are functions, and we can pass in information called props. And those props, such as this tweet here, can be passed into a child component that we get rendered on the page. So right now we're in the parent component called app, and its child component is everything rendered inside of the app, which in this case is these 5 tweet components. So we can come over here and we can define that this project is going to take in props, right? And then we can say props.tweet.id. And we can say props.tweet.content and props.tweet.author. And then if I come back over here, the functions are not defined, but notice that those values, tweet, are defined. So what we're going to want to do is now we don't need these functions here. We're going to need them on the tweets. So I'm actually just going to copy, or I'm going to take these functions and move them over to our tweet component. And I'm going to put it all in here. And this should just work. And the reason this works is because it's all the same stuff that we had before in our mapping function in app.js. The only difference is now, instead of rendering a card 5 times, in the parent, we're rendering 5 child components that we called tweets. See here? And when we render a child component, each individual child component has its own identity. So each individual child component has its own set of functions that it can use. So before, when we had rendered 5 cards here, there was only one function called handle upvote click and handle down vote click, right? Well, now there's 5 tweets, and each tweet has its own individual handle up vote click and handle down vote click. Each tweet has its own individual up vote button color and down vote button color, as opposed to the entire app having one single version of that in state. So now all 5 tweets have their own upvote button color and downvote button color. So you'll see when you come over here, of course I have to define use state. So hold on, let me see if I can get it to auto import it. Yep, okay. Enter that, use state. All right. So now I'm going to save, and this should work. So we'll come over here, and now only that one tweet has changed, because now each individual tweet has its own individual identity, so it has its own individual state. So that's pretty much it. I would encourage you to go to bootstrap.com and kind of read through these documentations and see how you can maybe make your app look a little prettier with some styles and things like that. Because obviously, this kind of looks crappy. I didn't really do a very good job of styling it here, but now you know how you can build it. Let's go ahead and see what else you can do from here. So I hope that helps. I hope you learned something, and I will see you next time.